you'd be surprised. He was the director.
I was a crossing guard up here at Main Street for a while, and there were some kids where I wanted to just
You couldn't stand to get
come on. Some of them.
That doesn't really surprise me.
I worked with special ed kids. That's actually what I did.
That is one field that I have a great deal of respect for.
I could do it.
I could not work with them.
But it wasn't because of the kids, it was because of the parents. Like I need to meet goals, reach a milestone, they go home to their parents, and then Monday it was like back together. But they needed crossing guards, so I go.
I think every job
I think it's working.
Item 7 p.m. We'll call the Shelby County Board meeting to order. We will start out with the pledge of allegiance, followed by the prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, as we humble ourselves before you, we ask that you heal our land. We put you first tonight and ask your perfect will be done. Forgive us as a country, state, and nation. Let us see every situation through your eyes and make wise decisions based on truth and justice. Help us to walk in your wisdom and unity. I pray oneness over our community and state. Let our speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that way we may know how we ought to answer each one who is outside, redeeming the time. Let no contention or malice or wrath be in our mouth, but help us to walk in the fruits of your Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
We'll continue with the approval of the minutes, March 9th, 23. I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett. Here. Teresa Banks. Here. Cody Brands. Here. Tim Brown.
Here.
Carol Cole. Here. Charles Davis. Julie Edwards. Here. Martha Bernhaber. Here. Clay Hardy.
here.
Matt Kessler.
Here.
Annette Martin.
Here.
Tad Bayhall.
Here.
Keith McCormick. Tim Morse.
Here.
Lori Nelson. Here. David Ogden.
Here.
Bobby Orman.
Here.
Sonny Ross.
Here.
Mitchell Schuff.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Brent Wallace.
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. March 9th, 23, regular meeting minutes that were tabled from 4/13 on motion by Sonny,
I would make a motion to untable those minutes.
second by Martha. Any discussion on the approval of the March 9th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the approval of the April 13th regular meeting minutes. Entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Dave, second by Brent. Any discussion on the April 13th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is the meeting minutes of the April 18th emergency meeting. Motion to approve those minutes. Jeremy, seconded by Matt. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is public body comment. As a reminder to the public, we have a 5-minute limit. We have a maximum of 10 minutes per person, so you can yield a maximum of 10 minutes to any person. When you speak, please rise, state your name, and please speak loudly and clearly so everybody in the room can hear. And I'll open the floor to public body comment.
Lisa Sweeney, county employee, 16 years, and ASME president. My response to Cody Brand's email from April 10th was discussed at the last county board meeting and further mentioned on a social media post by Martha Fernhaber. I would now like the opportunity to read the communications between Cody and myself, word for word, to provide factual information. From Cody: Hey Lisa, as a union representative, would you be interested in walking around the courthouse and talking with county employees? Probably Tuesday or Wednesday morning. I want to hear the frustrations and reservations from them. I'm not taking notes or asking names. I want them to let it all out. Thanks, Cody. My response back: personally, I don't think this would be the best way to approach this situation. I've included our union representative, Natalie Nagel, in this response. Union employees will not be sharing their frustrations with you during working hours. Thank you, Lisa Sweeney. His response back: I never asked for your personal opinion on the matter. You can also not tell anyone they cannot speak to union members. The union members can declare the Weingarten rights to request a steward, but that's it. Now I'll make a note by the email I received that the union is now okay with the status quo and willingness to not only be hostile towards the county board, but also its union members. I've also added the state's attorney. Cody, your response back to me is exactly what I expected and was the purpose for my guarded reply. It's what I was attempting to protect myself and union members from, our words being used against us. You don't sound like you have our best interest in mind. Someone truly concerned would have asked the best way to approach the situation or suggested an alternative solution. Were ASME members singled out? Or did you request to speak to non-union and FOP employees? You did not even ask if there was language in our contract that offers a way for employees and management to discuss problems and work out issues, because there is. Article 22, Section 4, Quarterly Labor Management Meetings. Although we've not had these meetings since July 7th, 2020, when the treasurer announced she no longer wanted to participate with the union. I get called out for speaking up. I get called out for disengaging. It's difficult to know what's expected of me. Here are more reasons I don't want to express my frustrations with the board. On January 30th, Julie Edwards seemed upset to have been misled by Chairman Orman and attorney Chris Kester regarding our proposed settlement agreement. After that meeting, Julie reached out to me and asked for additional information and documentation, which I provided to her. But at the February 2nd meeting, her concern was completely gone, with no further mention of the additional information and documents she possessed. Not only did Chairman Orman misrepresent that proposed settlement agreement, but he lied to me on a FOIA request. He responded, no records responsive to this request, and yet Mark Bennett provided me with an email communication between the two men. In April, I spoke to my county board representative, Clay Hardy, regarding the work environment. I've yet to hear back from him. I have a feeling he's been advised not to share information or even speak with me. If that's true, it's quite disheartening. So my apologies if I don't want to put my faith and trust with you board members. The last 4 years being a county employee have been the most stressful, negative, and filled with turmoil. They can be explained with this analogy. Employees are treading water in the ocean, just trying to keep our heads up and stay breathing. Meanwhile, sharks start circling and attacking the people next to you, picking them off one by one. You're just praying to survive long enough to outlive the circling sharks and the attacks. I fully understand there'll probably be consequences for me speaking tonight. Again, these are my own opinions, experiences, and feelings. I ask that no one retaliates against or intimidates other employees because of my words. County employees have already faced adversity, and the worst is yet to come. We know this. Even though I'm only 5'2", I'm willing to stand tall for the citizens and board members that support me, my fellow co-workers, both past and present, and my county. Thank you.
Can I rebuttal that?
Let's let the public speak.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Elizabeth Reagan. I've been a county employee for 8 years and a Shelby County taxpayer. I'm standing here tonight because I have concerns there may have been some false information about the former state's attorney's office. So I voided the term on March 5th, and I wanted to make sure that our taxpayers and citizens know the truth. In the March 9th board meeting, the statements were made regarding the last payroll and vacation time given. Our current state attorney stated that all the staff received 6 weeks vacation, which is why there was such a budget issue. He had sent a letter out on February 17th to Chairman Orman. The chairman then forwarded it to the rest of the board on the same day as the board meeting. At the February 28th budget meeting, when questions were asked to Chairman Orman about amounts, he had none to give. He then stated it was simply a discussion at this point. The very next day, on March 1st, our treasurer sent the chairman an email that had been brought to her attention that the state's attorney's office had budget issues. This email clearly states that only 2 office staff received 6 weeks vacation and 1 received 12 days. The total payout of the last payroll for the former state's attorney's office was $23,339.96. Mr. Ogden, you figured an amount of $41,000 in the March 9th meeting and stated the payout was more than what the new state's attorney was asking for. I'm not sure how you came up with that figure, but it was wrong. What caught my attention the most about watching that meeting was the fact the chairman and the treasurer knew that you were wrong and they never said a word. They never tried to correct you. I cannot say for sure whether our new state's attorney was aware, since the initial email concerning the 6 weeks vacation was sent from him, but he was never corrected either. So again, we have 2 people that purposely misrepresented facts to get the outcome they wanted. The next day, on March 2nd, our treasurer sent out another email to Chairman Orman and the state's attorney that she had spoken to Chris Hull from Bellwether about the immediate needs for the state's attorney budget and that ARPA funds could be used as the solution. So in 8 days, we went from having no numbers and only discussion to handing out $45,000 of ARPA funds. The chairman assured us all at that time that the office would now be staffed 8 to 4, and that's why the decision was so drastic. That has not been the case either. So in the April board meeting, you approved a $36,000 raise for the new assistant state attorney. Where is that money coming from? How is that figured in this already stretched budget? Since February, we have given out roughly $80,000 to one office. Is this how you are watching out for the taxpayers? I'm sure there'll be a retaliation for speaking because I've already faced that. I am among the many county citizens stalked and talked about by your peers. After the last 4 years, I feel the citizens of this county deserve the truth. They have been misled and the facts have become blurred. Employees and tax-paying citizens are ridiculed and punished because they ask questions or voice their opinions. These are the same people that you are here to represent. You are here because taxpayers believed you would work for their best interest. I'm not sure if you've forgotten or if you're not caring. There's no transparency at all. Business is done top secret, and you don't even include all the board members in sharing information to be able to make decisions. Information gets sent out to outside organizations and public bodies, but not to members of the committees. How are people supposed to think there's not a hidden agenda when you're clearly hiding things? I know that I've made mistakes, and I've apologized, and I strive to be better. I'm not afraid to admit when I have been wrong, and I've been held accountable. And it's time that you be held accountable and start practicing what you've been preaching. Thank you. Hey Liz, can you repeat the part where you were talking about emails going out to committees and, I'm sorry, I didn't. Information gets sent out to outside organizations and public body, but not to members of the committees. Do you know specifically what you're referencing? I mean, I know that Teresa Bain has not gotten emails for committee meetings. I know Carol doesn't get emails and.
Do you know specifically which emails?
Oh,
I mean,
could-
can you
I could
get that
probably get it.
to me? I mean, when an
Sure.
accusation like that.
Absolutely.
I'm just
I'll start
curious.
working on it tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Public body comment. Yes.
Marilyn Schmitz. At last month's meeting, Bobby, you said it was good to receive more information and clarification when Sunny offered a perspective. It was a good thing. It seems it is only good to this board when it speaks to the bubble. At last meeting, I tried to share clarification and understanding about the toxic work environment which exists here by drawing on my 50 years of corporate management experience. Instead, you allowed others here who can talk at any time during the meeting to interrupt me and talk over me. Then you hijacked my time in public body comments, and I did not appreciate being gabbled down, unable to share expertise that might improve this existing toxic work environment, which our friends and neighbors endure. We have worked in this courthouse for years as real public servants for all of Shelby County and should not be treated this way. So to be clear, it's obvious to everyone that this board does not want to improve and things and shuts down anyone who tries to improve them. And it's unprofessional.
Public body comment. Sir.
I'm Chris Bain. Actually, tonight I wanted to propose a project for the county farm that I don't believe has been mentioned yet. If it has, I apologize if it's redundant here. I've been doing some research, and just to be clear, it's just like cursory Google research, so this stuff, take it with a grain of salt. I'm still learning about all this. On community solar arrays, because my family owns some farm ground around our house, and we happen to be close to a substation, which I learned was desirable for these kinds of projects. I also believe the lines that Prairie Power are running through the county farm are capable of transmitting the power from a solar array. I'm certainly not an expert in this area, so I don't know if they still need a substation close by or if the lines are enough. My background's in literature. I'm not an engineer. There's too much math. For my research, I've learned the average rent per acre for solar farms in this area does vary quite a bit, but most of my research shows somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $2,000 an acre for rent. There are 236 acres in the farm, but some of that's timber, so we're probably not looking, or probably couldn't put all 236 in solar. Hypothetically speaking, let's assume we can put 150 of the 236 in solar. If we figure on the conservative end of the averages, even if we figure 1,000 an acre, that's 150,000 in revenue every year off the farm ground. If it goes to 1,500 an acre, then the number grows to 225,000. If we get that high end of the average at 2K, then it comes in at 300,000 for the array, figuring again at 150 acres. These leases run between 20 and 30 years, since the power companies need to know that the sizable output of the construction of the project, there's subsidies for this by the way, will pay off. And those contracts typically include what's called an escalator, which is an increase of 2% for the life of the contract. So in year one, if you're getting 2,000, then in year two, you're getting 2,040, and so on for the length of the contract. For a 20-year contract, by these figures, you're looking at $2,800 per acre. Those are numbers from Strategic Solar Group, and they show a range from 300 to 2,000 an acre, so the range can be broad. But our area, as I checked across a handful of websites, shows the range to be more consistent with the 1,000 to 2,000 range. Another benefit to these community solar arrays is they often include a buy-in from those that we use the power. I still need to do more research on this part, but I know these contributions come with reduced rates for those who help to sponsor the array. As utility costs have gone up these last few years, this would be a desirable option for those who could potentially buy into the array, who doesn't want a discount on their power bill. From what I've read on the legal issues surrounding the farm, the concern about public purpose has been a significant sticking point. To split a profit between the county and the farmer contracted to custom farm the land along with the property tax issues that led to some heated positions. This entire project would hinge upon the appetite of the Shelby Electric Cooperative, of which many in this room, I assume, are members, to spearhead this project. This would be a joint venture with the cooperative. So we may be sunk before we start if they don't have any interest. However, the cooperative is a nonprofit organization, so the concerns about public purpose due to private profit should no longer be an issue since they're a nonprofit. I assume the property tax issue can be worked out on lease, as it often is with cash rent on farm ground. If our local cooperative, who has a solar array east of town currently, would be interested, then this project would be a boon for the county, those who run the cooperative, and those who are members or / customers to the Shelby Electric Cooperative. If we can put 150 acres in solar, and if we can do more, we should, then we're talking about anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000 a year for the county simply for leasing the ground. We wouldn't have to prepare to farm it anymore. We wouldn't have to allocate finances for the farm. And important to many in the community, the farm would remain in the county's possession and would continue to serve the community with the sizable revenue the array would generate. I'm happy to put together some of my research into 1 or 2 page informational piece to distribute to the board. I would have done that today, but I was busy mowing my yard. But I assume the first step would be to find out if there's any interest in this project on the part of the co-op. Without their interest, the idea is dead in the water. But if there is interest, and I hope there is because I think it would serve the community well, then I believe it would be a great solution to this property that's been such a bone of contention for the community. That's what I got. Thanks.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Have you, you said you were looking into the one east of town.
I know there's one out there. I don't know
Yeah.
much about it.
I didn't know if you had, okay, well, I won't ask you because I don't know either. But
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know the
That it
numbers.
is the co-op. I know it's the co-ops.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's the CFO of a solar company, and I tried to reach out to him and ask him some questions. I spoke with Brian Barnick. Some folks in here know him. He graduated from Shelby High School. He went to school with my brother, and he works for a solar company out of Champaign. And he knew that this is happening, but he does more sort of personal solar installations. He doesn't do large-scale solar arrays. So I'm trying to find out more, and it's not my area of expertise, and I'm relegated to Google and, the contacts that I have.
Yeah, and I'm going to venture to guess in the near future, the next two weeks or so, we'll be addressing this quite in depth.
Okay.
So,
Bobby,
Bobby,
that spot east of town is, the property was owned by the co-op because they've got a propane tank out there. And that Prairie Power, which is a partner with the co-op, came in and put the solar array.
And I'd suggest people do the research on decommissioning these things. In 30 years, they're going to be done, and you're going to have to worry about decommissioning them. And see what the cost is going to be to get rid of these things. Everybody's going solar right now, but in 20, 30 years, when they're no good, what are we going to do with them? Who's going to pay for it, and how much is it going to cost?
right, and that's, I was one of the statements. Yeah, we'll discuss this in much more detail in a few weeks. Public body comment. John?
I agree with Chris Bain, surprisingly. The issue, I believe, was presented to the sponsor of the farm bill to permit not only solar farms for counties, but also to permit wind farms. And that was shot down quicker than anything I've ever seen in my life. So maybe if you go back to the original sponsor in the House and suggest that he put language in there to permit solar farms and to permit wind farms for county property, then it might get put back in there.
Let's see why that's a problem right now. To step in here.
But yeah, that was my understanding. It was brought up to him before it even went to the House. It might have even been brought up in one of the committee meetings. I'm not sure, but it was shot down. That's my public comment, but I do agree with what you said.
Bobby?
Yes.
We were invited to a co-op meeting last fall by the co-op and several other residents. and they were talking about the solar farms and very, very interested in it. We also attended a town hall, and we did hear from our state rep that he is in opposition of that and the wind farm.
Anybody comment? Sorry.
Yes, I'm Tricia, and I wanted to say a couple good things. I really like the website. I'm thankful that it's up for whoever's running that every day. I appreciate it. The other good thing I want to say is I've reached out and talked to a few board members, and I really appreciate the time that you gave because I had a lot of questions and touched on a lot of things with different people, and they did their best to answer those questions. It gave me a lot to think about, so I do appreciate that. Let's see here. My other comment, Mr. Hamlin isn't here tonight. Okay, I had a couple questions there, but I did want to say that I appreciate that. Some of the conversations that we had, and I won't get specific with who I talked to, had me a little bit concerned. Some of it was really helpful and some of it was really good. But when it comes to leadership, my question, we kind of got off on a discussion, well, what if everybody threatens to quit? What do we do with that? And, well, then you should do what they say. And if you don't do what they say, then it's personal. And I was thinking, wait a minute, it's not personal. You have to sit down and discuss things with people. You don't give people ultimatums. And it kind of felt like blackmail-like behavior. You don't give people ultimatums. That's not how discussions work. So I do question that about leadership because that part bothered me after I thought about that for a while. And so I wanted to say that. Like I said, I won't get specific with who I talked to on that, but the person who I spoke with knows. The other thing I want to say is about the miscommunication. I think I hear a lot, sometimes I see board members comment about how there's a narrative that they want to, a false narrative that people think that you want to sell the county farm. And I think some of that you contribute to when you're seeing comments from elected officials or you see comments from board members that say it's illegal to farm the farm ground. What's that tell people who are reading that? That you don't want to farm the farm ground when you're saying it's illegal, we're going to sell it. So I think where people are picking up on they want to sell the farm are based on some of the comments that they're reading. And I hope you could look at that and understand where people would be coming from when they see those comments. I think if we could eliminate some of the miscommunication, then maybe it could solve a lot of the problems. Thank you.
Public body comment. Julie.
So I want to read an email that I sent out on April 21st. I sent it out to every department head. Steve, yours from the health department, I got a bounce back on it, so I don't know if you got it, and I apologize if you didn't. But it says, "Good morning, all. In light of recent concerns brought forth by a member of the public, then reprinted in the Shelbyville Eagle, I feel it's necessary to reach out to our county department heads. While I do not feel it is the job of the board to micromanage departments, these concerns were brought to the board, and I feel they are serious enough to warrant a follow-up. I have great faith in our department heads to do the job they were elected, appointed to do, but apparently members of the public feel otherwise, so I'm asking that you submit in writing answers to the following questions. Please do not provide employee names at this time. If follow-up is required, that may be necessary, but at this time, I'm just asking for a generalized response. Do you or any of your employees of your department feel unsafe, in danger, or are you aware of any potential violence in the workplace that has not been addressed by policy or safety measures in place? Have you or the employees in your department witnessed physical, verbal, or sexual abuse in the workplace? Are you provided with the necessary equipment and tools to conduct your job duties efficiently and safely? Have you or your employees been compensated according to your agreement upon hiring or union contract? Do you or your employees receive the benefits agreed on at the time of hire or according to your union contract? Have you or your employees been denied any wages or benefits owed to you? Do you receive said compensation in a timely manner on predetermined pay days? Are there any other barriers that prevent you and your employees from doing the required duties of your job? I truly appreciate you all taking the time to respond. I want our county to be a safe and positive workplace. Thank you so much for all you do. You are appreciated. I got a response from the treasurer's office and the state's attorney's office. So I'm not saying that there isn't concern, but I genuinely reached out to department heads and got no response. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means they don't want to communicate. They're not required to communicate. The board does not manage the departments in this courthouse or in this county. But the narrative that no one cares is not true.
Amen.
So, I mean, that's all I can say.
Public body comment? Yes.
The only thing I can say, from my experience of over 50 years, Julie, with all due respect, sending that letter says more about the people that they would have to say that to than the people you're asking. It means that they do not have a trust.
Explain that, I don't know. Understand.
I managed a healthcare staff for 10 years, successfully managed. And healthcare is no easy feat to manage. Okay, I agree. Okay, whatever. But what I'm saying is, I don't feel it properly would be the place for me to go to employees before I reach out to their supervisor. When I managed a department, if someone came to my employees before they came to me, that would be grounds for contention. So I did what I thought was right in the chain of command, so to say, and I reached out to the department heads. But saying a blanket statement of nobody cares is just not fair.
Well, maybe
They may not like the responses they get, but that doesn't mean that they're being ignored.
Maybe, I don't know, Julie. All I'm saying is from my 50 years of experience, 30 of that being as director of assisted living, independent living, nursing home, long-term care, which is very, very hard, as you say. It speaks more to the fact that the employees, they might trust their supervisor, but for you as a board member or any other board member to just say that says to you, look at yourself. I've always been taught as a manager, when you point fingers, 3 of them are pointing back at yourself.
Did you get anything in my statement where I was pointing fingers?
No.
Okay, I made it an extension for communication.
You asked the question, why did you not get a response? And I'm just trying to help you consider. I'm just asking, I'm just trying to help make you think and consider that perhaps there's a mistrust. And you might think about that because, again, I was taught to ask the question 5 times. Why did somebody do this? Then you come up with an answer. Then you say why. Then you say why. When you say it 5 times, you'll come to the conclusion of what the real answer is. And I'm just trying to help you.
I appreciate that.
Chris, 40 seconds.
Okay, try to do this quick. When I was teaching at WashU, we had a situation where there was a contentious relationship between leadership and between instructors. And what they did was they sent out anonymous surveys to allow people to fill out. I don't know if that's how this was presented, Julie, but to do this anonymously with people would probably be a better way to cull honest information from employees.
I didn't
That-
ask for any names.
No. I'm just saying,
We need a whistleblower policy, something fierce, and we're in the mode of getting policies developed, but that's the next on the
the more
list.
anonymous it can be, the more truthful people are going to be. If there are trust issues, that's all I'm saying. If there are trust issues, the more anonymous it is, the better off, the better the information you're going to get.
And Chris, I did ask for your contact information because I was going to send you that just to show you, and no, I got no response, so I apologize.
Okay, public body comment. Over here, yes.
Hi, Jill Miller. I'll be quick. I have one extreme concern, as that's with our new state's attorney and what his hours are and how often he's here. And my understanding is that he is salaried, so he gets to make his own hours. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just asking. I know before in the past, it's been maybe like 8 to 4. They're here all the time with their staff, and someone can call the office at any time and someone answers the phone. I'm understanding from conversations that does not happen every day. And when thinking back to when people were talking about Alan Spessard and how he worked on, I guess, county time, I don't know the whole story, but he was also salaried, so if he got his job done and was working over his lunch hour to help the city out, I don't understand what the difference is if Mr. Hamlin doesn't have to, if he can set his own hours. Like, I'm just confused about that. I'm sure everything he's doing is legal. It just seems confusing to me why you would call the office and can't get anybody to answer on certain days. It's just a question, that's it. Thank you.
Public body comment. Cody.
Okay, I have a question. So, at the beginning, I came to you on an email to talk about issues. But then, a minute later, you said you reached out to another board member to talk about issues. Is that what you not said? Clay, or who was it?
Oh, yeah, he stopped by, he was filing some paperwork, and just happened to ask me, how are things going in the courthouse? And I told him that the environment is horrible. So that's what I said to him.
And did he ask to talk about it? You said he wouldn't call back or
No,
whatever?
he was busy and said, we probably shouldn't talk here, and I said, you're probably right. He was trying to get to his job, and I needed to get to mine, so that was the conversation.
So the other thing too is you and Elizabeth talked about retaliation. ILCS 40//15-5, that's against the law. So if I were to retaliate,
And I didn't mean you specifically. I was not speaking about you specifically, Cody. No.
but that's what was implied, correct?
No, I
You
was
said
not speaking
retaliation.
I was speaking of retaliation, but not you specifically retaliating. It seems like it happens when people speak up. You get articles written about you that might or might not be true. I mean, you can't dispute that, so there is retaliation. I'm not speaking of you personally, no.
So you're talking about outside.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing too was the emails, not you, Elizabeth, so you stated that there was emails not being sent, but then you can't give an example.
Right. And
So you don't know for sure that if it's true.
I will get that information tomorrow. I mean, I know it's true, and we all know it's true, and I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you. I told Julie that I would get the information tomorrow, and that's what I'm gonna do. And I'll send it to you as well if you'd like. I said I'll send it to you as well if you'd
Yeah,
like.
that'd be great.
Perfect.
ones that are missing, and you know them, I'm just asking if you agree with that,
About the last meeting. I'm
Excuse
sorry
me.
that they would be included in your findings, because I believe that you did mention Mrs. Bailey. Thank you.
Sorry. Everybody comment?
I think somebody over there.
Thank you, sir. Chris, we agree.
Hey, wonder never ceases.
You
It's time for everything.
You betcha. I can tell you after 13 years of this, there's an answer to every question I've heard tonight, if you're willing to take the time to get to it. Most important, when someone says, well, I was told, someone, and I don't know who it was, but I heard it from the right side, so I don't know who said it. The representative was against wind and solar, or solar, I don't recall whether it was both or one. Ironically, in the Farm Bill, your representative of this county provided options to include wind, solar, custom farm, crop share, lease, which was already part of it, and they wanted nothing but lease. No other option. No option but lease. And when you do that, it's called statutory prohibition. It means that's all you can do. And the prior board had figured out, and we believe rightfully so, custom farming, it was within the confines of the law that you could do it. And they wanted no part of that. Now, it's in the Senate. How many actually listened to the Senate committee hearing on the bill? What was one of the first things the chairman said? Do you recall? Are you trying to amend the Constitution? Because this is a constitutional question. And from the legislative annotated Constitution, this is the legislator's version, which is from lawyers. Excuse me, I can't hear you.
We weren't there when they did it, and I asked Carol, is that what the lady said? The senator said that.
Yeah, I forget the chairman's name that brought it up.
Mrs. Murphy was the one that said.
Mrs. Murphy.
Murphy. Okay.
It was the senator, it wasn't the chairman.
Okay, I heard it. I thought she was chairing the meeting, but whatever the senator was, she brought up the question of constitutionality. They got it from the annotated Constitution. The opinions that have advised on this point, that not only must such leases be for adequate consideration, that's the money coming in, but the use to which the leasee puts the private property must itself benefit the public. And that's where this whole concept behind a private farmer farming the ground. It's been established throughout years of case law, and it's a constitutional issue. And I think with custom farming, you got around it. I think you can get around it with solar. I think you can get around it with wind, because you own it, and it's more profitable. In fact, money is the issue. That's what we've heard numerous times. It's all about the money. We're making money. They even put a provision in the amendment. The suggestion was, select the one that's the most profitable. And they said no. That's telling. Who's they? The people that are in charge of the bill that wanted the amendment was handed to. The sponsor. Thank you. The sponsor of the bill wanted no part of that. We don't know why. But the representative from this district, someone has alleged that he wasn't for wind or solar. And I don't remember which it was that was said or who said it. But that can't be true when he's the one that presented the very amendment to expand this process. There's answers to these questions. The Mr. Spessard question, this wasn't about Mr. Spessard finishing his work and going off and doing something for the city. That's not what it was about at all. It was about using the county office for his place of business, along with his partner. That's what it was about. It was documented in IDOT records. That's how he was able to bid the numbers he did, because he didn't have the overhead of other competitors. And that's why that matter is still in the hands of the Attorney General. But there are answers to every single question. I urge you to have a conversation. I love the back and forth, because it does get to the bottom of a lot of things. It really does. That's how you'll hash this stuff out. I don't have anything else at this time. Thank you.
When the lease bill was brought up over at Springfield, the only thing it was about leasing, we're not talking about anything else, is that right? Mark?
Mark Bennett. We end up talking about the farm again, the county farm. We always go back to it. This all came about from previous boards because it was never bid out. It would never came to a head of any sort. So the county wants to make money off of it. Great. Then why couldn't we follow the first rule? Take bids. We have to have bids for surplus equipment, from the sheriff's office, anywhere. But previous board members didn't want to go that direction. We've been doing it for years. All they had to do was look up the law and follow it. Okay? So we don't like it as a county. Several of you. Instead of making facts, you blow it out of proportion. Our state's attorney and I disagree. Okay, so why are we at the state level trying to change the law if I was wrong? Or the other members of the board that said, hey, we got to at least bid it out. And you have members of the board bucking that issue. I'm sorry, Jake, you bucked it. Your wife has bucked it. Chris has bucked it. A lot of you have bucked it. But it's my turn. You have time left. That'll be fine. But the whole idea was we have a law. If Nicole would have just said, okay, then let's go see if we can change the law. That would have been fine. But she didn't like that. At the time, we had 3 members on that farm board. And we said we have to bid it out. We couldn't lease it. The whole issue with all of this group is that we saw it in the paperwork that the rules were such that it had to be bid out or something else. But we couldn't even take step 1. So let's fight about it back and forth. If Nicole would have come to the farm committee and said, you're right, hey, let's work to change it. But that's not what happened. So various members of the public started writing as many false accusations that the members of the board wanted to sell it, didn't want to follow what the other members of the county wanted to do. There's a lot of false statements written out there. Nobody come and just sat down with me and asked me, or at that time, John Pogue. Instead, everybody wrote up what they wanted. They didn't come to the farm meetings. That's why we had 2 other members come on, and still there was no communication. But on social media, you can write anything you want. And most of you people that are against it and don't see what has evolved is because you didn't read the minutes or be in the conversation that was going on, that we're not trying to sell the farm. We're trying to do it a legal way. And if that requires the laws to be changed, so be it. So we try to work together, but a lot of you want to try to just run and make your own narrative on it. Okay? Change the law. Don't blame somebody else.
I'm on the farm committee, and this is the first time I've ever heard anything about bidding. I've never been against bidding out the farm. I wasn't on that last year, so.
No, he's referring to all the years prior, and everything that we've done
Of
in
bidding
Pheasant
out,
Farm.
I've never said anything about not bidding out. So I don't know where.
I was representing the previous board, and that's where it started. In fact, I named the names of those that was on it. John Pogue, myself, and actually Jesse Durkin. And this is where it started.
I mean, I never had anything to do with it.
I just mean that what you have written has been about, and what's been said by others, is that Carol saved the farm from being sold. You have not?
Those are my words.
Okay. We have
I'm
you
an
on the
advocate.
board.
I'm an advocate.
We're trying to achieve it.
If there's time,
Okay.
you silence other
I'm
people.
an advocate for the farm, and everybody knows that, you know. I don't know what else to say. And I will push for it to be farmed, however we can have it farmed. I'm on the farm committee. I hope I can agree with all of the people on the farm committee, and that we get it done every year. You know, we need to farm it, we need to harvest the crop, we need to sow the beans when it comes to July, and we need to farm that property. We have a lease with the farmer, and that's what needs to be done.
Is it leased or is it bid out?
No, it's custom farms.
Custom farms, but he signed a lease.
One at a time. I had Jake over here.
Oh, I'm just curious why 25 other counties could either lease or cash renter farm and we couldn't. I have not heard a good explanation for that. If we can't, then why can they? How do they get by with that when we can't? Because I don't understand that at all. I believe one of the reasons we didn't farm the farm in 2021 was because Mr. Hanlon said, if you voted to lease the farm, you might be sued, and you could end up in big trouble. I don't know that that's ever happened in Illinois where someone threatened to sue a county board member for voting to lease a farm, but it could have. I don't know. But that doesn't make any sense why they can do it and we can't.
So the direct response to that is the votes that came down in 2021 was hinged upon the vote of the board to appoint an outside third-party manager, and being that they couldn't get an affirmative vote to hire the manager, then the rest of it was a no-go.
So the reason we didn't get a farm is because of county board or committee or?
The board.
Okay. So it's the board's fault they didn't get a farm?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Another part of that too, I looked into some of it, I can't speak for the 25, but there's a few of them that set up park districts, and then that's how they were able to farm.
We're talking about people farm that have their land custom farming.
But you asked about the 25, how they could do it. That's what they just said.
I brought that thing back.
Yes, I'd like to see the balance of my time with Mr. Bain. He had more thoughts to share.
Agenda item number 17 from 2/11/21. Mark Bennett requests approval for disposal of Shelby County poor farmland, also known as the Shelby County Farm, 240 plus or minus acres. Minutes read, Mark Bennett, Farm Committee member, stated that members of the Farm Committee felt the best option is to sell the county farm. He understands the emotional aspect given the ground, the county. This land is not this land is not contiguous with the airport, so it's not an option to give this farm ground to the airport for their use. Baker made motion, I believe that's Earl Baker made the motion, to sell the county farm. Pat Lyons seconded said motion. A lengthy discussion ensued. The only reason this did not happen at that time, Terry Metzger made a motion to table the sale for the county farm. Jeff Slifer seconded said motion, which passed roll call vote 13-9. I just wanted that on record.
Public body comment. Public body comment? Yes.
Austin Pritchard. March 9th, board meeting, the board voted to extend $15,000 to the state's attorney's office to digitize records. There was a claim submitted as part of the person that's been hired to digitize these records. There was a claim submitted. One of the dates was March 6th. I'd like to know how this person could start doing that work before the board ever approved it to be done. with that $15,000. The next question I have concerns ARPA funds, and has there ever been a committee set up to determine what's going to be done with these ARPA funds, to decide going forward how they're going to be used? You know, it has to be earmarked by the end of '24 what's going to be done with these funds. They have to be accounted for, and then you have until the end of '26 to spend. Just curious, thank you.
Public body comment.
Teresa Bain, and I want to speak to what Austin just said, that on the March 9th meeting, the board voted to give $30,000 to pay the assistant state's attorney for Moultrie County.
Special prosecutor.
Whatever. And $15,000 for the scanning of the documents. And that happened on March the 9th, and that meeting happened at 7 o'clock in the evening. The bills that we've paid so far for the scanning was March the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. So I question too, how did they even get the documents up there for the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th if it wasn't even approved until the evening of March the 9th? And my other question is, what is happening with these documents after they're scanned? Are they being brought back here, or what? They can't be shredded without documentation, they have to be approved to be shredded.
So, this is my off-the-cuff answer to that. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. But within a budget, there's the ability to spend and obligate funds. What we did was we took funds out of ARPA and obligated that to that process. If we didn't obligate to that process, well, it would still come out of the budget, out of the state's attorney's budget versus the ARPA budget. So the funds were there. To answer everybody's question, the funds were there. Now, would it cause a shortfall at the end? May have. But that was, I'm going to assume, I have not talked with the state attorney about that, but I'm going to look at it justifiably, looking at budget and ARPA, and they're two different things, and they can be managed, I can see where they be managed that way.
Okay, I'm not done.
Go ahead.
Okay, that speaks to transparency, is what this speaks to. When you get a bill like this, and the dates on it the way they are, and when it was approved, and what the money was earmarked for. That speaks to transparency. And now the other thing I have is, on May the 1st, Elizabeth Dodson was sworn in as a special assistant state's attorney. Okay, I didn't know any of this, and I don't know if this, what we're paying her for now, if it's still coming out of the ARPA money, or is she an employee of Shelby County drawing a paycheck like Erica and Jessica and everybody else?
Somewhere in my archives, I can find the answer to the state's attorney, the assistant state's attorney, and the special state's attorney versus the special prosecutors. They were, you know, State's Attorney Weaver and Assistant Dobson were special prosecutors until, I do believe, last Friday. The appointment was as a special state's attorney, as you said, correct?
Appointment of Shelby County Special Assistant State's Attorney.
Yes. So that is something that the state's attorney can do. Matter of fact, previous state's attorneys have done that. And
I'm asking how she's being paid, is what I'm asking. Is she an employee of Shelby County, or is she?
Why not? My suggestion is to get a hold of the state's attorney and find out, because I can't without going through that. I used to kind of know all that stuff one time, off the top of my head. But it'll take me a minute to go back to the statutes and figure that one out.
As a board member, though, it would be nice if this was communicated, so when somebody asked,
you be able to tell them what's going on. We now have a appointment of a special assistant state's attorney, an ASA, and a state's attorney. Now we have 3 people, and not a clerical person in that office.
Yes, and good point, they're still searching for one. So if anybody knows of a good person, Martha.
Martha Fernhaber, Shelby County taxpaying citizen. And I'm just going to say the witch hunt against our state's attorney, Ron Hanlon, is getting insanely old. We had another department head in the last 2-3 weeks that hired an additional employee in their department, and nothing's said. I'm not sure that person had to send an email out to the full county board to let everybody know she was hiring a new employee, because she doesn't have to. It's within her budget, it's within her department, and it's within her right. So are you going to ridicule that department head for hiring somebody without your know-all and permission? I'm sorry, but we have an excellent state's attorney. He's doing a fantastic job. And the witch hunt against him, and if we spent half as much time trying to do things productive for our county as we did trying to have gotcha moments for Mr. Rob Hanlon, we'd actually get something accomplished.
All I was asking, Martha, is why he's not here all the time.
He's been in Champaign for the lawsuits that we have against the sheriff's department.
I mean, I know he doesn't have to say where he is because he's salary. I'm just saying previously, which I know everybody always says just because we did it one way doesn't mean we have to do it that way again, has been the common thread that's been sent to me.
But if he's in Champaign County at all 3 of them, trial up there,
but all 3 of them has the assistant state's attorney. I think I'm saying that right. The new one. Is she ever here?
She's here all the time.
She is.
Yeah, I talked to her 3 times this week.
Okay. Okay. I'm just asking. You don't have to get defensive. I'm just asking.
Was everybody coming in and checking the logs every day when it was Nicole and Jay Scott? We got people posting on Facebook about whether they live here or not. Was anybody complaining when Jay Scott lived in Macon County? Was anybody complaining when her paralegal lived in Christian County? But now that we have a different state's attorney, which, may I remind everybody, please, we have a new state's attorney that was appointed because Nicole Cronky vacated her spot 2 years into a 4-year term that she was elected to serve.
She was also raked over the coals every meeting by things. Is what I'm saying.
Well, she did the job, she did not do the job on the civil side.
I have Erica back here.
First of all, I'd like to say, Bobby, that the phones in the state's attorney's office aren't working. I have tried to call up there. I've tried to use the intercom system. I've tried to dial the phone number. And when somebody picks the phone up, it goes dead. So they're having phone difficulties. They know that. They're not doing a lot about it because we're going to have a presentation tonight and we're changing the phone systems potentially in the county. So, and that said, Elizabeth Dobson is not on payroll. She is not being paid out of payroll. My understanding was that she was appointed as the special assistant to finish the cases that she started, so those cases wouldn't yet again have to be handed off to somebody else to restart because it already restarted with her. And when those cases are done, she will be done, and we are continuing to pay not Elizabeth Dobson to do that job. We are reimbursing Moultrie County for the work that she is doing here with the $30,000 out of ARPA. And if we want to gripe about a whole lot of money coming out of ARPA toward employees, I think, Teresa, you have the ARPA budget, and you could let the public know what line items out of the ARPA budget and how much of the $4.2 million is going to employees and will continue to go to employees.
All right. I have Matt up here.
I just want to offer maybe, I heard what Teresa said, and I understand her concern. I just see it totally differently. Mr. Hanlon is from a totally different background. He's not a bureaucrat. He's not a long-standing government employee. This is something that he's entered into, and coming from the private sector, a private attorney, there's efficiencies that he's used to. He's probably not going to wait 30 days or 60 days to get something approved by the board that he doesn't have to get approved. If he can help his own budget, and he can start having things scanned early prior to ever being approved by the board to help his budget retroactively, great. He's starting work. I view it more as efficiency and less as transparency. I view it more as a person who's trying to get something done, as a good faith estimate of what that actually was.
I can see that point too, but also there's scanners all over this courthouse, and you wouldn't have to pay somebody $50 an hour here, and the money would stay in Shelby County. This is ARPA tax, our ARPA money leaving the county to pay somebody $50 an hour to scan documents.
The way he values it might be differently than the way you value it. If an attorney can quickly digitize and see information and not go through piles of information, he perhaps is saving money. So
I'm not disputing the scanning of the documents. I'm disputing how much he's paying, where the money's going. It's leaving Shelby County. That was Shelby County ARPA funds to be used in the county. I do have one more thing, though. I do have the balance of the ARPA funds that are available. I announced last month what they were, and I'll tell you this month there's $3,268,315.07 available.
So how much of that's been spent, how much of that has been payroll?
I don't know, because payroll is an obligation that was negotiated.
Right,
I'm not-
so roughly $2.5 million has been spent, $2.25 million has been spent in payroll.
So what do you say?
You know what I'm saying? Well, we made a comparison to using ARPA funds to pay $15,000, $30,000.
Those were Shelby County employees that are drawing that money and the wages that has been paid.
And the special prosecutors did this county massive, massive duty and favor when they were here. So,
I didn't say anything negative about them, other than I didn't understand why on May 1st she was sworn in. I questioned whether she was our employee or what was going on, is what I questioned.
I had Chris back here.
I just walked out, called the state's attorney's office, the phone was working. Maybe it's on the fritz sometimes, but I just tried it, and it was working.
It rings.
Yeah, okay.
When you pick it up, it dies.
Oh, okay, no one's in there to answer it right now. All right.
One at a time. I have,
Excuse me. I just want to speak to the fact that, yes, I did hire a part-time employee, and I had every right to. It was in my budget because I negotiated that when we did our budget. And it's a line item. It's a part-time person, so much, and that's it. And yes, I do have it in my budget. And it took me this long to get somebody to apply. I got one application.
Nobody questioned you.
I know.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, yes, it is in my budget, and yes, that's why I hired somebody, and they probably didn't even know, I did.
I'm back here in the back.
As a former state's attorney in 2 counties, I can give you a comparison. I think a fair question about the copying or the scanning is, it is a concern when public documents and public files go 200 miles away to a private office. That is a concern. You have the duty to make sure these public records stay as private information, not to be disclosed. So that's a fair question to ask, whether that should be done up there or whether it should be hired to be done here, either with bringing in some extra people or contracting out to Kinko's or whatever, some other service. The other thing that's a fair question to ask is, Christian County, where I am now, the Public Defender's Office does this and has now for a couple of years on a daily basis. They have one employee on one staff or secretary. And considering the volume of cases there versus here, they would have it 2 to 3 times the volume of scanning, and 90% of all the cases go to the public defender. So it's a fair comparison to say they would have 2 to 3 times the volume. They do it, 95% of it's done by the one staffer, secretary. They do occasionally hire out. They do have a woman that comes in a handful of hours a month to help catch up on the scanning. And that, they pay, and I confirmed this with Christian County, They're paying that extra person to come in a few hours a month, $13 an hour. It's not, it doesn't require great level of experience, skill, or acumen. It is putting the document in, getting a few punches. So it's fair to ask, do you want to keep spending $50 an hour when you could probably find it done locally for $13 an hour? I just raised the question. I'm not arguing.
It'd be like working McDonald's for $13 an hour.
Well, unfortunately, you guys don't pay the salaries at this courthouse much more than that. I got it.
No, just
So,
saying.
Can I add to my
it
time?
can't be done.
Hang on, I have Dave here. Dave.
Just to address your point, Dave Ogden, I think the real question that we have to ask is the documents that are being scanned, is this backlog from a lot of years? And we're getting it done fast, then it will be done in-house. That is the real question. Everybody's focused on the 50. It's because the previous offices did not do their job. So let's stop it at there and let's get an answer.
Well, you don't think scanning could be done locally in Shelby or Christian County for $13 an hour?
It's being done.
I think it probably could.
I know, but it's being done very efficiently.
At $50 an hour in Chicagoland.
You bet.
There's a massive security issue with having somebody from within 100 miles of this county do any scan work because of compromising any sort of document that would be anybody within the county or within 5 counties around. And so
his private staff in Henry,
that just comes to mind.
that's worse, if you will, because they're not employees.
Am I on my time? He needs to be quiet if I'm on my time.
Yeah, it's your time.
Okay.
I haven't released my time.
I do want to, if we're going out, Liz, if we're going to pick my numbers apart, I want to be on the record that I appreciate your solar, awesome idea. I want to put one out there that we could eliminate a lot of aggravation in Shelby County, and I know I'm going to get crucified for even saying this, but 240 acres, $10,000 an acre, 2.4 million, put it in a CD, drawing close to 5%, 120,000 a year. Does that not make money for the county? Huh? No, I mean, does it make money for the county? No different than solar farm. And then we don't have to argue. That's waiting for it. No, I don't know. Nobody put me up to it. This is my own. I'm taking ownership of it.
I just have one. I don't think anybody is trying to crucify anybody. We're the taxpayers. No, I'm not talking to you. I'm just addressing. There's not a witch hunt. It's about accountability.
Please, I have Jake back here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying no.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't. Jake.
Your turn.
I'd like to know who's keeping the inventory of the documents and who's keeping the inventory when they come back. And why are we sending them away from here when there's several different companies that do that for a living, that will do it for much less than we're getting it done? It makes no sense at all to me. I wouldn't give them all the papers of my business and my home. I wouldn't think of giving them to someone and letting them take them 200 miles away. It may not be illegal, but it's awfully poor management.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I agree with you about the concern about the integrity of the documents and the privacy of the documents. I think that's a fair point. But I think that same concern applies when they go to anyone's private office 200 miles away where there's no control. And that whoever's doing that work is not an employee of the county, so you have no control, no supervision of them. they're not under contract. So here again, I think that same concern you mentioned is a valid one that applies to having them go to an attorney's private office to be handled by his private staff. It's totally out of the control of the county, and they're neither an employee nor under contract. Thank you.
Close my comment. Martha.
I'm curious how you can sit there and say there are no controls. Were you a part of it? Were you in the office up there? Were you in the office up there to know whether or not there were any controls in place?
I believe you posed it as a question.
I posed it as a question. That's exactly right.
Asking what the controls were.
You guys should be the ones asking him, what's he doing to protect your documentation? That's his burden to explain to you. He should be there. My point is, it's $13 an hour in the area. Easy to do.
When he explained why, and Dave hit it on the head, it was the backlog. It was the amount of, can you finish please? Mr. Hamlin was here and he explained it to us all. The amount of backlog and what it would take on a small scale scanner that would be in the office for the day-to-day scanning would take months to get done. He had a large capacity scanner where they could get scanned quickly and ready to go and ready for use. So exactly as Dave said, it's a one-time project. Get them scanned, get them in, ready to go, and then for the day-to-day stuff, you've got a scanner here, as you were referring to in Christian County to do that.
Right.
I was a part of an insurance agency that had to scan hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of files, probably millions of pieces of paper. And it's a large project. You can't do it on a little scanner like what you or I or anybody else here might scan on in an office on a day-to-day basis.
So you don't think you could hire someone to come in here and scan these?
Hey, she's talking, not you. If I may, she asked me a question. May I just quickly address that? I think I have a rational response to that.
Yeah, I'll answer the question.
A lot of that backlog is old cases that are closed. There's no urgency to that. The other thing is, if let's just say you continue to pay at that rate and those hours for 2 months, let's just say you do, maybe you will. What you paid that person in 2 months would have bought the most expensive software program necessary to do what you're doing in-house. So I'm only commenting on, is it a wise expenditure of money? If you, in 2 months at that rate, you're going to pay somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 for that service at $50 an hour.
Is it his department?
Can you let me finish?
It's his department, he gets to decide.
You authorize the monies, right? Is it in his budget to scan at $50 an hour in McHenry County? So I'm just saying, is it a wise use of the monies? You're going to have this system, when he's gone and you don't have his office in McHenry, you're going to have the software necessary to continue scanning. You can't stop scanning in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. You're going to have to keep it up. You're going to have to buy that program. For the 2 months you'll pay her, if that continues at that rate, you would have bought the necessary, most sophisticated program and could do it on your own. That's all I'm saying. Is it a good management of money? That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
Can I finish my time?
Yes, John.
And I kind of agree with when you said when he's gone, you're not going to have the same person scanning, but I could probably guarantee when he leaves, they're not going to be hitting the delete button on all the freaking files on all the computers on the way out the door.
Public comment. Sure.
I said earlier, there's an answer to pretty much every question that gets asked, if you really want it. Has any of you asked the state's attorney these questions?
We were hoping he'd be here we could ask him those questions.
Okay. This is a county board meeting. It's not a time to question heads of office, typically. But my point is, everybody has all this concern about whatever's going on, but I haven't seen one hand raised that you actually called or tried to set up an appointment to even go find out any information.
Actually, if you want an answer, my dad went into his office and asked, and he said, if you want to know anything, he asked a question. I don't think you're in charge.
I don't think you're there.
So he sat in his office, and Mr. Hamlin said, if you want to know anything, you can FOIA it.
Okay.
That's it?
and that will get you an answer.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
I mean, that's what we've
But
been.
that is not a discussion. Why does everything have to be politicized? Why can't you just sit and have a discussion?
Well, and that's,
You can't.
Public body comment, we're gonna start with the top. I'm out of time on you.
I just have one thing.
No, out of time. You've got-
Well, he
you've
asked
got
a
it
question, and that's why you all were voted in, is to answer those questions for us. We're the
Man back here in
taxpayers.
the back.
yield my time to Marilyn.
You are?
Rachel Smith.
To answer his questions, that's why you were all voted in, to speak for us. We can't be everywhere. And yes, we're the taxpayers. It's our money. And I was always taught, we were always taught, you pay your bills, you know, you have a budget, you know what you're going to spend. So it's not a witch hunt. It's about looking at the money, where is the money spent, and getting the answers. That's all it is. It's just transparency, and there's a ton of money. It just so happens, what I'm hearing, is there's a ton of money being spent at this time at the SA office. So it is only natural that people want to know where, why, how is it being spent. But to answer the question, yes, there is an answer for every question. And that's why you're here.
Have you emailed the board members? Have you emailed any board members?
Cody,
Yes, I have.
public body comment.
But I'm asking for, if there's an issue.
Point of order, point of order.
Cody,
This is not back and forth meeting.
please, let's go to public body comment, not public body dialogue. Questions can be answered. Absolutely, but this is not public body dialogue. Public body comment.
Do I have 20 seconds left?
Let me find you.
I yield whatever time I have, you can have it.
Yes, Cody.
So, I think Badger County Watchdogs and some other people say that obviously we need to be factual when we're stating things, and for it to be the complete truth. I don't know how he knows that Nicole deleted all of her files. I don't know if that's a fact, or if he knows it's a fact, and why he would know that if it was a fact, but I don't think that's something you just blurt out.
I didn't hear him
That's all
say
I
her
have to say.
name.
He said the former state's attorney's
She's got the
office.
floor. Can I finish my time?
Please.
Hold on a second.
And that's all I'll say. I don't need anybody's time.
Well,
I'll be fast. Only need 10 seconds.
okay, John. Good.
There was a letter produced under the Freedom of Information Act where whatever they were called, what they were appointed by the judge to fill in for the state's attorney when there was no state's attorney, that expressed displeasure that all the computers were missing all their files or pertinent files pertaining to cases and everything else. I never mentioned who deleted them. I just said, I'll guarantee you when this state's attorney leaves, that he would probably not be hitting the delete button on the way out. But I assume it happened the last time when the state's attorney left, because that letter would have never been sent claiming there were no files on the computers if it did not happen. Files don't just magically disappear.
Public body comment. Public body comment. Public body comment. All right, we'll move to the body of the agenda. Move forward with the agenda. Item 5 is the announcement of vacancy of board review in District 2 due to the resignation of Patricia Kensel effective May 12, 23. It's just an announcement. Lori, Jim, anything you want to speak to this on?
I did. The question was raised, well, actually it was mentioned a couple of times in various public safety committee meetings that as we were discussing a later agenda item, just around the issue of switching rooms. So I started, myself and some other people on the board started looking into how those vacancies would be filled. And I think Mr. Bennett said, just look up the law and follow it. We have a law. So I did, and I know some others did, and it's 35 ILCS 200 Article 6, the boards of review. I had wondered if it was an elected position and received documents as far as like it being a 6-year term, but there were no, I believe it's voter results. I never saw that. But I was wondering how those positions would be filled. And section 6-5 talks about appointed boards of review in counties under township organization, which Shelby County is, with less than 3 million inhabitants, which Shelby County is, in which no board of review is elected under section 6-35. That section also says, if you'll give me a moment, that elected boards of review are in counties with 150,000 people or more and less than 3 million inhabitants, which had an elected board of review on January 1st of 1993. The board of 3 persons shall continue in office every 2 years. That is not Shelby County. So am I to understand that this statute indicates that we are to be an appointed board of review according to the statute? So we'll be following that process?
So we have two department heads here. One's elections, one's in that realm.
I'm not
Assessments.
board of review. I'm not board of review, I'm just their clerk. They've been elected for as long as I know, and I'm an elected official. I don't know if you're, I don't know the answer, and that's why you probably just need to talk to your state's attorney.
Well, I have a session.
I don't know if an elected supervisor of assessments, if your board of review has to be elected. I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. I think
But that's the question, yeah.
Yeah, the statute.
So right
actually
now, they are
speaks to that.
elected, they were elected officials.
I'm just asking how the vacancy is going to be appointed, or how the vacancy is going to be
That's
filled.
between, I guess, you guys and your state's attorney.
So the section 6-15, if I may continue, the political makeup and compensation, it talks about it, how the board of review appointed under section 6-5 shall consist of 3 members, 2 of whom are affiliated with political party holding the last highest vote for any county office in the county loan. It's online, it's ilga.gov. Again, for anybody who wants to look up the law, 35 ILCS 200 /6-5, sections 5, 15, and 35, I believe. And I'm just wanting to understand the process of how those appointments, or how that vacancy will be filled. Because it seems like we should have 3, is that correct?
You have to
And we only have 1. And June is when that starts,
You
right?
have to have 3.
And they start working in June, is that correct?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
So
they
you,
start working in June?
if you don't have a board of review, you don't collect taxes.
I'm not.
so, what's the main address of the ILCS what?
35 ILCS 200,
35 ILCS 200 is in that section. Okay.
yes.
But if they're elected, do you have to appoint somebody of that same party? I think
Yes,
so.
I believe it says this.
I think so, as an appointed official.
If
I don't
if you
know
wish
the
to.
rules, like I said, again, that's, you need to talk to the state's attorney. Because I'm not a lawyer, and nobody's a lawyer, I'm certainly not a lawyer.
Okay, so we
And
have
I don't think this has ever happened before.
That somebody has resigned? There were 2 others on the
No.
form that I got.
That's not what I meant. What I meant was that we're in dire straits of not having a board review. I don't think that's ever happened before. And they're supposed to come in session the first Monday in June, and that would have been the 5th, so now I'm guessing that office is closed. They were gonna come in next week and do their rules and procedures for 2023, and now they can't do that.
the last rules and procedures they had were for 2022.
Okay, yes, I did get that, thank you.
Okay. So we have a vacancy on the board of review. We've got some statutes to address and some things to address with the state's attorney. So moving on to item 6, discussion and vote to approve the implementation of a new countywide phone system at the recommendation of the legislative committee.
So moved.
Jeremy makes a motion to implement a new countywide phone system. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Julie. Discussion. Jeremy.
Mr. Chairman, this was brought to our attention a couple of months ago. Based on what I gather, the phone system in the courthouse is sometimes precarious, held together by duct tape and baling wire, if you will. We're kind of fortunate it doesn't go out with every storm that we have. We already have issues with the phones. We've learned that tonight. The gentlemen at MyTech Solutions were kind enough to attend a couple of our meetings. They've done a lot of research, presented some plans. This would switch over to a different kind of phone system that would save us money in the long run. And in the long run, I mean less than 2 years, really closer to just over 1 year. This whole project would very likely pay for itself and then some. It would allow for better communications with departments and the people. I think one of the primary departments that was mentioned was the circuit clerk's office when they deal with jury duty issues, them having to call people or people having to call them. This, I believe, if everything goes smoothly, would be, once they start switching over, would be an overnight kind of process. That's what I recall anyway. I think the project would start about 6 weeks after the contract is entered into based on their workload at the present time. This was under the bid threshold. It's going to cost approximately $17,000. This encompasses all the offices in the courthouse, the sheriff's department, animal control. I believe the health department and highway department did not need an upgrade. That's all I have off the top of my head. If anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, so the courthouse, I'm showing roughly, a short 10,000 for that, 9,600, and then roughly 7,000, short 7,000 for the sheriff's department. So that's where you can get a rough 17,000 to do the project. So, any other questions, comments?
Just a quick question. I think we discussed this before. I just want to make sure, since you gentlemen are here, is this voice over internet? And then, just based on my experience when that was installed a year and a half ago in my office, it took a big drain off of my total capacity. So either my phone dumped or my computer dumped. So I assume that testing is done in advance before it's installed, just to make sure that the rest of the systems function. Because mine did not.
We've got 195 of them in the courthouse, which is more than enough to handle the sheriff's department and the courthouse.
Yeah, I didn't want you to live my experience.
We're way under over capacity for what you need for water.
Can I have some?
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Bernhaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Orman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Item 7 is discussion and vote to approve resolution upon the recommendation of Bill Weathers to do a 3-month budget, followed by a 1-year budget in order to change the fiscal year to 12/1, starts in 2023. Mark makes the motion, Mark seconds the motion. John, do you have a comment or no?
Second,
Any questions, discussions on the matter?
I just want to be crystal clear that we're going to do a 3-month budget and then a 1-year budget. We're not doing a 1-year and then a 3-month. We're going to get us on the proper rotation right now.
Right now. Yeah, that's been a point of conversation a couple different times I've had with different partners. If I can find the resolution, I'll see if I can. Let's see.
Paragraph 2 states September 1, 2023 to November 30, 2023, followed by a 12-month.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8 is Highway Department. Read. You got the floor.
Thank you, guys. First, let's see. Clarksburg Highway Commissioner wants to replace a 102-inch arch corrugated metal pipe. It's located 1.5 miles northwest of Gallagher's Corner, north of Fancher. The estimated cost is $12,635.67 to be split 50-50 with Clarksburg Township and the county.
Entertain a motion for the, Matt makes the motion for the culvert. Brent seconds the motion. Any discussion? This is a 50-50 petition, so we'll take a roll call vote.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain. Yes. Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Bernhaber.
Yes.
Dave Hardy.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Jeanette Martin.
Yes.
Ted Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Moore. Lauren Nelson. David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Warman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we also, we held a letting on May 4th to replace a bridge on Mowequa Blacktop located 2 miles east of Mowequa. We only received one bid, and it's from Sea Hill Civil Construction. They're previously known as the Pew and Owen. They've been bought out, and their bid was $545,888. Just for extra information, the bid was 14% over our estimate. So at this point, we have the choice to accept or to rebid. Rebidding will most likely delay the project until next year and result in a higher cost. It's just my assumptions. And due to its age and condition, I would recommend replacing it as soon as possible.
So this is on the Mowequa Blacktop.
Yep.
Where's that at?
It's right in front of Brian Kaufman's house.
Yeah. Just to the west, about 200 feet. I have a couple of questions for constituents in the area. They want to know if the road's being raised at all because it is a rather low spot.
Offhand, I believe it's only being raised by maybe 10 inches or 8 inches or so.
Yeah, we have a hill there. It's kind of dangerous. The other question is this going to happen during harvest?
That's a $1 million question. You know,
Because there's no good roads around.
Yeah. Yep. Well, right now we don't have a confirmed schedule from the contractor because we haven't accepted the bid yet. That will soon follow if we do. I've talked to, last year we had a problem on the Westervelt Bridge getting the deck beams in time, and it would put us right into harvest. I've talked to the company that makes the deck beams, County Materials, and they say these beams are a lot simpler to make, and they are more caught up now than they were last year.
I don't know if that's just, sweet nothings in my ear or not, but we're hoping that it can be done like late summer, hopefully before harvest.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the bridge project? Hearing none, we'll take a roll. What's that? Sorry. Matt makes a motion. You get a second? Mark makes a second. Now, we'll take a roll call vote.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bang.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole. Julie Edwards. Mark Fernhaber. Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler. Nat Martin. Tad Mayhaw. Tim Moore. Lori Nelson. David Ogden. Bobby Morgan. Sonny Ross. Mitchell Sheff. Don Tate. Brent Wallace. Jeremy Williams. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, next, well, back in 2020, this board approved the use of $250,000 of Rebuild Illinois funds, and that was for design and construction of this project we're talking about. That was before we really knew what the final price was going to be. So now that we have a bid price, we created a resolution for $360,000 of Rebuild Illinois funds to cover the rest of the construction costs. That's what this is for.
Entertain a motion for the resolution to use Rebuild Illinois funds. Carol makes the motion. Need a second? Don seconds. Any discussion, questions?
I have a question.
Martha?
When you say this 360 is to cover the rest of the construction, so 360,000 on top of the 554,888?
No, so we already had one resolution that would put $250,000 towards the project. We spent almost 50 designing it, and then, so we have another 200 that's sitting there that's going to go towards construction. So that's going to go towards that 545. Yep, so then I created one for $360,000. That covers the rest of the construction costs, and I put on an extra $15,000 just to give us a little bit of leeway if something comes up during the job.
So this isn't just a bump from 250 to 360, it's an additional 360?
Additional, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Something you'd like to bring to the board?
I was commenting on how expensive for such just a small bridge. I'm sorry, what was the dimensions again that you was telling
The dimensions?
on the previous?
Well, I know what we're putting back is going to be 28 foot wide, and it's going to be 60 foot span.
60 foot?
60 foot span. I couldn't tell you the
Because
dimensions.
I think the existing one is maybe less than 20.
No, it's not less than 20. I know that. It's
close.
It's probably 30, 40. I couldn't tell you exactly the opening of it, but I know it's more than 20.
It's not very big, but it's astronomical for where it's going to cover.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the resolution to rebuild Illinois? Yeah, we'll roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bang. Cody Brands. Tim Brown.
Yep.
Carol Cole. Julie Edwards. Mark Fernhaber. Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler. Nat Martin. Tad Mayhaw. Tim Morse. Lori Nelson. David Ogden. Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace. Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Is there any other updates or anything you want to address while you're on the floor?
That's really all I have prepared.
Thank you.
Okay, in the County Highway Department section, we have Matt Kessler, the Road and Bridge Committee Chair, has 2 items that he wants to bring to the board.
3 items.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
So we have the committee unanimously approved a sign-on bonus for $15,000 D there, and to be paid in a certain manner. We just find that it's time now to be really aggressive and to make a strong statement that we want a county engineer, and we need a county engineer. And that's the origin of this. we've been looking at this, for 5 or 6 months, and we just finally said we're gonna have to really get serious about competing with other opportunities that civil engineers have. They can go into the private world, they can go into state work. County engineers right now are really actually hard to get. And it's becoming harder to get. So we think this makes a strong statement to whoever's looking at us to incentivize them to come.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I can make the motion to approve the sign-on bonus.
So Matt makes the motion to approve the $15,000 sign-on bonus to be paid after the conclusion of the first week or the first pay period, and the half be finalized, or the final half be paid at the 6-month anniversary of the start date of the employment. Matt makes the motion. Tim makes a second. Tim Brown. Any discussion on that?
How long is,
Hold
oh, sorry, I apologize.
Please, over here.
I was at the meeting that they talked about this, the committee meeting out there last Monday. I am in favor of offering the bonus, and I told Matt I would speak up for this. I'm not so sure $15,000 is enough, because where is it that they were offering $30,000?
Greene County, they offered 30. So this concept is becoming, it's totally novel really in the public sector, but it's going to become more and more use practice to do sign-on bonuses to get county engineers, because there's multiple county engineer vacancies going on right now, or even around us in various counties. So we felt like 15,000, though, was a strong number and reasonable among different tensions of being conservative, but also showing that we're trying to be generous to somebody.
I think it's a great use of the ARPA money, because we need somebody in this position to do the work and stuff. The only thing that bothers me, I would be willing to give more money for it, but I think that the payout of it, if you give them $30,000, and if they don't stay 2 years or something, they have to pay it back, because I think that that's what some sign-on bonuses, you have to stay a certain amount of time. That's my only drawback with the whole thing. And $30,000, I mean, $30,000 isn't that much. I mean, we've talked about other things costing $30,000, and this is very important.
I work in a world of sign-on bonuses, and typically, oh, sorry. Am I supposed to talk?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Mark, is there something you want to bring to the board?
I'm just trying to get an idea if anybody's in here, if we should amend it.
Oh, okay, we'll get to
Typically, when you have a contract with an employee with a sign-on bonus, you have it for a number of years. Like, you do $5,000 a year. So, and then there's also the stipulation that if they do not fulfill the contract, that sign-on bonus is recouped. Because if not, and 6 months to me doesn't seem like a very long time. I mean, I signed one for 2 years, but it's very easy to get your money and then leave. So when you do a sign-up bonus, which I'm totally in favor of it, but we need to put very strict rules with the bonus, and you get initial chunk, then after a year you get the remainder, or whatever we determine. And if you leave your position before, you are responsible. And I guess some people prorate it. The ones that I've been in, if I leave one day before the end of my contract, I'm responsible for repaying the entire amount. So, that gives people the incentive to stay on rather than just get their money and hit the road.
Good points. I have Jeremy over here. You want somebody?
No, just wait, I'm getting your attention. Would you consider it a friendly amendment if we amended the amount and added a similar stipulation, as Julie mentions?
I wouldn't consider it a sign-on bonus. So they run 6-year terms, county engineers, and then they come up for another approval before the board. I would not consider it a sign-on bonus if we strung it out over 6 years. If you strung it out over, I would like to see, I'd like to see it done within a year, but I understand the concern to string it out over 2 years. I would ask that we front-load it, most of it in the front, you know, at least by the end of the first year. And you can go into the second year, but not drag it out, because that's, to me, that's not really a sign-on bonus.
So what they're driving at is, it can be paid, you know, day one, 6 months. However, if they leave within, say, a 3 to 5 year period of time, and that's undetermined right now, but if they leave in that period of time, they owe that money back for it, you know, because that, their bonus was there to bring them on and for them to stay. So that's what they're saying. It's not that they wouldn't get it, they would get it, but then if they would leave, like I said, in an undetermined amount of time, right now, then it would be up for reimbursement. Cody.
Tim is first.
Oh, Tim.
My only problem is if it's someone who is upwardly mobile and looking to better themselves, locking them in to a determined period, and whether or not they get their money, they may not come just because they're saying, okay, I may not want to stay a long period. So we may not end up with anybody, you know.
Rather than just put this out there as far as an amendment to this, but for a point of discussion, is I don't have any reservations of the bonus, I don't have any reservations of doubling the bonus, right? However, the first part being a bonus, the rest being a retainer option. So the 15 grand within the first year, fine, and then the remainder over a 3-year period, right? Hit your, you know, anniversary every year as a $5,000 incentive to stick.
That's a good idea.
I would be okay with that, right?
I think that's very attractive, yeah.
Okay, Cody.
Well, since I got jumped, you took my thunder.
Take your thunder.
All right, so that's, to be fair, that's twice tonight that I've taken ideas from others. I didn't speak to Cody first, but I did say, Lori did mention something earlier that I said, so they're both right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Are we seeking to make an amendment to the main motion? Tad's gonna make it.
I make the amendment to the motion for the total of $30,000, $7,500 upon signing, $7,500 at 6 months, the balance to be paid on the anniversary in $5,000 increments over 3 years. I don't double check my math.
Second.
You're good. Yeah.
So I have an amendment, you have all that written down?
Yes.
It's recorded.
Well, my understanding is it's all going to be in the employment agreement, so.
Sure. I had a second by Jeremy.
I do have one question. Since it's allocated, we can still stretch it out for the 3 years for ARPA, correct?
It's got to be paid by 2026.
So that'd be, yeah, you're good. Okay.
Clarification on the amendment, please.
So the amendment is, rather than a $15,000 sign-on bonus, it is a $30,000 sign-on bonus. 75%, $7,500 to be paid at signing, $7,500 at 6 months, that's $15,000, and then $15,000, the remainder, to be paid on the anniversary,
5,000 at a time.
3 years for 3 years. Any discussion? Brent?
Just so the public knows that by hiring this guy, we're saving over $100,000 on just one thing that this man can do. So it ain't like we're throwing all this money out here. He's an investment. We're gonna recoup our money in a couple of years on his salary, just on what we're paying out right now for not having a county engineer Plus, we're gonna start losing funds here real soon if we don't get a county engineer. So, just want everybody to know that we're not just blowing tax money and throwing $30,000 out of the guy. You know, we're trying to get somebody, get him here, and he's gonna pay for himself, so.
Just to be clear, there's no restrictions on this contract, you know, like if he would leave at 2 years, you don't have, we're gonna, when he gets the money, that's his, whenever that term is stated.
Mitchell,
So the employment agreement still gotta be handed out.
I took Tad's staging as, it's created such an incentive to stay,
Yeah.
as opposed to demotive or negative, which I think is a very attractive idea.
Okay, so right now we have the amendment on the floor of the 30,000 total, amortized over 5 years, basically, 4 years, because we gotta get into 26. 3 years. The math of it, we're 23 now. So any other questions, discussion? Don?
To Matt's point, should we split this up and call it a sign-on bonus for the $15,000 and a retention bonus for the other $15,000?
Okay, that's what I said.
Is that what you said? Okay, I mean, I understood that's what we were doing, but I don't know if we said it that way.
Okay, so the approval of these funds, then we go back to the committee, and then we draw up the terms of agreement, the terms of employment and all that, and come back and we approve the terms of employment. However, we can't put the cart before the horse per se, so we gotta get the funds, and then we can draw up the agreement, so that's where we're at. Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call on the amendment, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bank.
Yes.
Cody Franz.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Farnhaver.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Laura Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Rachel Sheff. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so now we have the amendment passed. We'll go back to the main motion. Go back to the main motion as amended. So, we'll roll call this again.
Okay.
We have to go back to the main motion as amended.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bank.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole. Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Farnhaver.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Nat Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Laura Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Rachel Sheff.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brett Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
I'm deliberating over something here, so bear with me a second. Because as I look at this, and we make decisions to amend, it wasn't on the agenda to go that direction. And we completely changed the verbiage of what we did. I'm sorry? So I'm just bringing to the board's attention that, you know, we came to decide on this agenda item. Now granted, we decided on a bonus and retention. But I'm questioning whether or not we should have changed the numbers in which was on the agenda.
Even with the amendment, it doesn't cover that?
But because I asked Reed and ultimately Matt about this, because I said, in my opinion, this verbiage needed to be spelled out. And it will be spelled out when they do their employment agreement. So essentially you were, in my opinion, once again, you approved a sign-on bonus, an amount for sign-on bonus. But that's all going to be detailed in the signed employment agreement that is once again going to come back and go before this board to be approved and spelled out, for what that's worth.
Okay.
I mean, I guess maybe, if that's the purpose of amendments, right, is to amend. We didn't, this only says bonus, it doesn't say sign-on bonus, it says bonus. It's still all under the umbrella of bonus. That's not the, is that not the purpose of an amendment?
It does say sign bonus.
Oh, sign-on.
Well, it wasn't hyphenated, so it didn't count.
Bobby, I do agree this, all these details are going to go into an employment contract. That's going to be reviewed by the state's attorney and sent to, after all the legal boxes are checked, will be sent out to the board for a final review and vote prior to him coming and seating. And so.
Okay, we'll move on.
Hey, Bobby?
Yes.
Should we, on E, should we ask for 30,000 there instead of 15 before we did the?
Well, we're getting ready to go into that discussion, so, item E is the approved resolution asking the board to approve of ARPA funds to cover the $15,000 sign-on bonus, at the recommendation of the Road and Bridge Committee. So there again, we'll start with the main motion. Martha makes a motion to approve of the resolution. Cal seconded.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a concern that we're voting on something that's not on the agenda. We told the public $15,000 and a sign-on bonus. The public did not have prior awareness of anything else that we've done. Maybe this is okay, maybe it's not, but let's do it so that we're sure.
Okay, so we want to, motions here. We need motions to take action.
Was there a motion that would, I'll be quick. Don't we have a motion in a second, we're in discussion?
On the approval of the resolution?
Word E. Oh, okay.
No, I was just reading.
We're just now starting, there's Martha and myself.
So do we have a motion for E? In a second, and we're in discussion?
Yes.
I would like to ask how is it, how could it rightly be amended, or can it not be? What would be a proper amendment? Mr. Chair.
Bobby?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with, I don't think we should have amended this.
I think
It should have been voted on as written,
Because it's so specific.
because it is specific to an actionable item.
this is one of those things, you have to phrase your agenda item carefully, and unfortunately, sometimes rather vaguely.
But this is, in honest goodness though, this is what the Road and Bridge Committee recommended. It's a $15,000 split. Now, if you wanted to, I suppose if you wanted to add it,
Bobby, the retention aspect of it, I guess if we are going to go back to square one, however, whatever that looks like, the retention part could come later, even in the next, come up through the committee and then come to the full board, which Tad made an excellent suggestion. And then, because we're still accomplishing the same thing, because in the first year, we were saying 15,000 was going to go out anyways. So it could come up through committee, and the retention part can come up to the full board next month.
So we can go ahead and do what's here and then do the rest of it next.
so let's get the motions corrected. Let's get everything corrected.
So are we still on E, Mr. Chairman?
Who's got the main motion? Martha's got the main motion, Tad had a second. Would you respectfully withdraw your motion?
Well, we can still stick on it, go back.
Huh?
We can still stick with it and go backwards.
Yes. Well, what I'm saying is,
Well, I don't want to withdraw, if we can just pass this part and go backwards.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna stay on E. We have a motion and a second by Tad. Motion by Martha, second by Ted. Discussion on 15,000, we've had a lot of discussion on 15,000. Any other discussion on this? And this is a resolution to use ARPA funds to cover $15,000 sign bonus. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole. Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Burnaver.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler. Craig Mayhall.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Sorry, I skipped you. Tim Morse. Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries on item,
Yes.
on item E. We will go back to item D. Ted.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my amendment to pay $15,000 up front, $7,500 at signing, $7,500 at 6 months, and $5,000 each year over 3 years.
So he makes a motion to withdraw the amendment, seconded by Jeremy.
No. We need a motion to reconsider. I think that's the appropriate
Well,
procedure.
he is, he's making a motion to withdraw that motion.
Can't do that.
It's already been approved. You can't withdraw it now.
You gotta rescind the motion.
We have to reconsider, and then I'll make the motion to reconsider item D.
Okay. Jeremy, are you getting this?
Yeah.
Jeremy makes a motion to reconsider item D. Item D is in dog.
I'll second.
Seconded by Don. All in favor say aye. Aye. So item D is now for reconsideration. I entertain a motion to approve the $15,000 sign-on bonus as written on the agenda.
So moved.
Jeremy makes a motion to do that.
Second.
Don seconds that motion. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
Yes.
Cody Brands. Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole. Julie Edwards. Yes. Martha Burnaver. Yes. Clay Hardy. Okay. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin. Ted Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson. David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross. Mitchell Shuff.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 19 ayes. Clay was.
So now that we've corrected item D forward, and now we have the funds approved to item E, now we'll move on to item F, which is approve IDOT resolution BLR 021110, certifying the name of Nick Burris to IDOT to sit for the exam county engineer. Matt makes the motion. We have a second by Brent. Discussion.
So I just wanted to give everybody kind of a timeline of how this is all happening. Some of you were here with Stephen, and saw Stephen DeWitt go through this. We have a candidate in the portal, and he has to go and sit at IDOT and go through their inspection and their exam to make sure that he is properly equipped and certified to come. So some counties have the luxury of having maybe 5 candidates that go to IDOT and sit. They come back still as candidates, and that is the position Mr. Burris is in. He is in a decision-making process with us, and we're thankful that he's taking this procedural step, and then we will try to get this ASAP to IDOT. He'll go sit for the exam. We would hope to hear back about the results by the end of May. We would hope to have an employment contract with him if he continues to step forward. I think with Mr. Mayhall's excellent ideas tonight, I think that's going to send a strong signal that we want him. And then he would be eligible with his contract to be voted on in June, and he would probably be sitting with us in our highway department in July 1st.
Motion second.
Motion second. Any discussion or questions from that for the road bridge committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Nick is not a current employee.
That is correct. Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is a discussion of votes to approve the county credit card policy upon recommendation of the legislative committee. Jeremy makes a motion to approve the credit card policy. Need a second?
Second.
Second by Julie. Discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to table.
We have a motion to table by Martha, second by Sandy. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes, please raise your hand.
Yes, there's still questions.
So,
I'm counting the no's because they're less. Okay, so I've got 5 voting no. Tim, Jeremy, Julie, David Ogden, and Cody are voted to not table. So tabling passed.
yeah. So we will table the credit card policy. Moving on.
Glad we had
Item
discussion
10,
on that.
discussion and vote to approve leasing on the first floor of the courthouse southwest corner, which is the Board of Review. To the Illinois Courts Pre-Trial Program upon recommendation of the Public Safety Committee. Sonny makes a motion, we need a second.
Second.
Second by Julie. Any discussion?
So, the sheriff was able to get in contact with pretrial. At the Public Safety Committee, there was some discussion and question about the amount of funds that they were willing to give us for the space. The sheriff was able to work out a larger amount, nearly double. So, we recommend that we move forward with that. It's the recommendation of the judge and the request of pretrial, as there are many activities that are all similar in nature that happen on that first floor, with the Board of Reviews meeting a short time every year and pretrial being 365 days a year, that we put them in that room. And
So we need to, I have one question. Where would we put Board of Review?
that's 11 in the office space next to the treasurer's office.
The amount that sheriff was able to get, it still has to be final approved from the state with the lease and all that, but it's $25.80 per square foot annually for a 2-year lease. Is that correct, Sheriff? Yes.
Thank you.
Did we not approve of the second floor space a while back for this? So, I guess we're just gonna move that.
I think it was the judge, her preference was that it be near the probation office
Right.
and the public defender's office, just for continuity, and then the Board of Review would be on the second floor, the same floor as the assessor. I mean, it just kind of.
It starts at 12. So just to make everybody perfectly clear, we did take action, but we're taking action now to kind of adjust things and move things around. So Board of Review would be on the second floor. According to this motion, upon approval.
Did we actually take motion to put them on the second floor, or we did not take action to specifically place them. We took action to place them in the courthouse, and the conversation was around that second floor office space.
So there's a large discussion on it.
But to my knowledge and the clerk's knowledge, we did not take official action on where to specifically place them, which is why I did not include that in this.
Okay. Very good. item 10, or item 11, is discussion and vote to approve the relocation board review from the courthouse basement to the office space next to treasurer's office on the second floor of the courthouse upon the recommendation of Public Safety Committee.
So moved.
Sonny makes a motion to move board review. Julie seconds the motion. Discussion. I just would like to make one point. I guess since we talked about it back in probably January, I guess, it's like anything, you know, that office space has been loosely occupied by the treasurer. And, you know, under assumption that since the discussion was had in January, she was willing to work with us then, so I guess she's willing to work with us now. So, other than that, all in favor of moving board review to the second floor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 12 is discussion and vote to rescind the resolution 21-22 approving disposal by trade-in of the 2012 truck used for animal control services. Motion by Sonny, second by Cody.
So, this was discussion at the Public Safety Committee as well. Resolution 21-22, which was sent to everyone in their read-ahead material. We have found issues with the language in the second sentence that says that the property was to be traded into an automobile dealer, and we find that in contradiction to the law of surplus equipment. And so we would like to rescind that resolution so that we might legally move forward.
So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries with no rescission. Item 13 is committee reports. We've heard a lot from public safety, we've heard a lot from road and bridge, and the other committees that would like to, and a lot of legislative, is there any others that would like to report anything? Lori?
I'm on the Public Safety Committee and have been working with the sheriff and the company Axon regarding body cameras. An agreement was entered into, but there was some problematic language in that. We have since been in contact with the company, and they've adjusted the terms to be compliant within the law and made sure that we have appropriate language in there. So that looks pretty good on our end. They will be, because we have a 3-month budget, change or shift or whatever set, they are able to offer us a certain packaging price to lock us into a lower price. So it's very good timing for them and for us, but just so you're aware, there will be an upfront cost not to encumber future boards for paying for something they didn't agree to. There will be a little bit larger amount regarding the body cameras so that we can get new body cameras in working order right out of the box with no battery issues or anything. So that should be loaded onto the 3-month budget. So just so it's not shocking to anybody. I believe it's a good deal for the sheriff. If he has anything to add to that, Axon was the lowest bid, and they have been very eager to work with us to make sure that everything lines up on their end with our end and our stipulations of making sure the language is appropriate according to the law.
Mark? I'm sorry, you're done? Okay, we'll go Mark.
Okay, the finance committee, we have some questions that have to do with MyTech because there is, I believe, 3 computers that are taking off of MyTech's safeguards, and the $4,000 that we pay each month is distributed through all departments, and so with those computers taken off, the $4,000 has to be readjusted so that every department pays a different fee. that is not built into their budgets. They built their budgets according to, which this can happen anywhere. Let's say there's 50 computers. I don't know the exact number offhand. I've seen a list of it. But whether a department adds a computer or takes it off would change the amount that each department is in charge to pay. We have a situation where we have a department that was, in fact, it's the probation department, and the chief judge said that it was built into her expenses at a certain rate, and she's not to change or pay more. In fact, Jessica sent out an email to, I think, everybody to this effect. Please go ahead.
But Heather did come up yesterday and said this month she would pay the increase. So that's what I did the check for.
Yeah, in fact, Don Tate and myself, we did some extensive math to try to figure it out for our back month and going forward, and
because I know that she had a conversation with you, right, Martha, that hopefully you guys can, Heather talked to you.
yeah, and then Martha and I talked, and actually I talked with Heather again. But it's something that we're going to have to, I think there's department heads that want answers as to why they are actually paying more of the $4,000 bill each month. I tried to get an answer, I told members of the committee I would try to have one before tonight. I didn't have luck with the phone, and I didn't get a return conversation. So it's an ongoing situation I'll still be working on. The other bills that we have, I will address in claims.
Any other committee reports?
I just want to say, the absence of an engineer for a year has strained the budget at the highway department. 2 years ago, they put in their budget to get a new truck, new tandem. And that new tandem is now arriving. So many things are on back order, including new trucks. So that money apparently is not in the lockbox that you go get, and then you have that money to pay it in an older budget. So that's coming due, and the highway department's funds, the committee will probably be bringing a recommendation to the full board to use some ARPA money, because we do view the tandems and the fixing of the roads and the plowing of snow as a wide-ranging county item that should be probably considered for ARPA money. So that's probably coming.
Any other committee reports?
I have a question, can I ask it, about the audit? Has the audit started?
I believe so, yeah. It's well underway. I have no idea where they're at in it, but yes, they're underway. Any other committee reports? Moving on to the updates, there's just a few things that, since we have a zoning administrator, I've tasked him with getting very, very in touch with our zoning ordinances of wind and solar, as well as the legislative measures of wind and solar. And he's been, it sounds like he's been wearing his fingertips off on the computer. So we're working pretty quickly in that direction on those ordinances. I did get a message from FS yesterday, and this is, Mark and I talked about it yesterday, I think it was yesterday. Basically, the fungicide application on the wheat, I don't know if it's a logistics issue with machines on ground rigs, or if it is a ground condition issue with ground rigs. But the fungicide is due to be sprayed anytime. concern is they're wanting to flip it to an airplane, which puts an extra $2.48 on the expense of that application, because it is by an airplane versus ground rig. And my concern at the moment is, and this is, I guess, a conversation that I'll have with FS, is either they get it on with the ground rig, and this is where I'm at right now. They get it on with the ground rig, or we don't apply it. Because he sent me a message yesterday morning, which is not within the 48-hour window of getting on the agenda for changing, making a decision on the board, which this is a board-managed piece. And so I think we're stuck between a rock and a hard place on that fungicide out. But I'll have that conversation with him tomorrow, just let you guys all know.
I will say one thing along that. When Bobby talked to me, I just happened to have another supplier walk up to my facility at home, and they told me they were taking all fungicide applications, and they would also be using plants. This was a different company. So, as Bobby said, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I'm just curious, I hate to be done here, but what happens if you don't put the fungicide on?
So, it's one of the, fungicide, and this is my opinion, fungicide is highly subject to environment and climate. We've been relatively dry rolling into the last few days. We're in headset and grain production, and this is the time where certain diseases kind of rise. Well, when you spray fungicide on the onset of head, actually it's 1/3 of pollination when you spray it to get optimal protection. You could have some fusarium or some blight or some other things that come into play that would create a little bit of, they compromise the grain quality. Like I said, we've been dry, relatively dry, rolling into this grain fill season, so if we spray it, we're protected. And if we don't spray it, obviously we're not. But I know there's farmers out there that don't spray it. So, and it's just one of those management decisions that it's just a management decision. But will it affect the wheat yield 20 bushel? I've seen side-by-side data that shows that it could be quite extensive. I've also seen years where it paid 0. Matter of fact, it was a negative number because the neighbor that didn't spray versus the neighbor that did spray, the wheat yield was the same. So, it was, if they can get it off the ground, I believe we're just stepping the rock on it. Sorry?
Hey, Mitch,
Was it?
I thought it was somebody else's input might help.
I just wonder why what's the reasoning behind no ground rig? What's their?
Just because they're pushed to apply to other crops, corn, soybeans. We haven't had sprayed, but we haven't grown 20 wheat on our farm in over 20 years, so.
Sometimes it pays, sometimes it don't.
We do the same thing with corn and soybeans, the same scenario.
It's highly environmental going into seed grain production.
I have an insurance policy, except for that.
You ain't thinking about putting it on airplane, are you? Either do it with ground rig or don't do it at all?
Well, we're pretty tight in the budget anyway, as well as the board's approved a certain amount of funds to go through with the processes at hand. And if we add $500 to it, we haven't approved the funds. So, we're just,
I said you can't put it on the ground rig, you don't put
mean, if it was me on my own, I'd be like, yeah, fly it on. But it's not. But I will say this, there's things that we learned last year about different processes. There's also things that we're learning right now that perhaps it would be wise to budget worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is we've got to make multiple applications of insecticide because we have infestation. We've got to make 2 passes of fungicide because of infestation. Whatever the case may be. And we've talked about this before in committee. The sky's the limit when it comes to how much you want to put into a crop. There's also the reward aspect of it too. But being fiscally responsible and owning in the economics is pretty important as well. So anyway, I just want to bring you guys up to date on that. As well as, we talked earlier about the solar and winds. Did I mention that? Yeah, I think I did public on that. Yeah, we'll be working on that in the near future. Rolling through committee and then, based on some evaluation of the statutes that Lori brought in, we may be coming back in with a special meeting at the very end of the month to go through ordinances and address this board of review, depending on what legal review results in. So, moving on. When we go into chairman appointments, I have Sean Creviston to the Finley Fire Protection District trustee for a 3-year term. Julie makes a motion in a second. Seconded by Tim Morris. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Then I have Josh Colliver to a it's a drainage commissioner district 2 of Tower Hill term expires of 92 of 25, so that would effectively be about 3-year term. 2 years. 2 change. So, Josh Colliver, drainage commissioner, drainage district number 2. Motion. Second, motion by Dave, seconded by Matt. Discussion.
I got a phone call from somebody that knows a lot about drainage.
Very good.
Yes. He says this isn't legal to do it this way. They have to be 3-year terms.
He's replacing.
That's what he asked me, if this was a temporary.
Yes. He's replacing a trustee that just stepped down. And
So is
same
this the
attorney
remainder?
for his drainage district, his attorney for this drainage district can file this paperwork.
Okay, so it's not a new position
No.
for 2 years. Okay, that's what, I got a phone call. Okay.
So any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, I have Mark Wolf to the Tri-County Fire Trustee for a 3-year term by resolution. Motion, Cody Brands makes the motion. Second, Martha. Where's the Tri-County Fire?
I know that we overlap Fayette, Effingham, and us. So.
Beecher City.
Tri-County.
Okay.
Beecher City.
All right.
Beecher City, Shumway area.
Okay. Because I've heard of Tri-County being referenced over at Payne before too, so. Okay. Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Up next is Amy Black, the Herrick Fire Protection District trustee for a 3-year term. Entertained motion. Brent makes the motion, second by Martha. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 17 is old business. Anybody have any old business? Julie?
I'd like to remind the board, because maybe they're not aware, but we had a forensic audit done a while back, and there are still $700 and some thousand in errors, payroll errors that we need to get at some point remedied. I'm not sure what committee, I'm not sure who, I'm not sure how we get started on it, but I feel like at some point we got to get started on it.
What committee would that fall under?
I'd take it under budget with, budget.
Budget meeting regularly?
We're developing a budget agenda,
Understood.
mostly to do with zoning and liquor though. But yes, definitely needs to be tacked on the wall for to do. Any other old business? That.
Yeah, so we, excuse me, I know that the state started getting caught up, and when we approved the expenditure for the extra assistance for a while with a set dollar amount, do we know where we're at in regards to that? Because it was mentioned that it would take possibly up to 6 weeks, and mathematically we're probably at or near. Just wonder where we're at in this process.
Do you know where?
I don't, but the one comment I can make from the finance committee meeting this week was that I think what we approved in the meeting was 4,000 and some change. And the note was made that she's worked significantly more hours than what she's requested to pay for. So I feel quite confident they're going to stay well within that $30,000. And Elizabeth Dobson is giving up her time for this county.
Yeah, and I'm not questioning within the 30, because
Yeah, I
above the
think
30.
what we approved Tuesday was 4,000 and some change, which I believe was the first portion of her being a special
Special prosecutor.
special prosecutor.
Okay, any other old business? Did I ask you a question, Sam? We're in the process, we'll probably be within,
Well, we still got 20 minutes, 25 minutes until 10. Do we want to slow down just a little bit to keep it normal?
No.
No. So, no other old business is being brought to the agenda. We will move on to the approval of claims. I'll get a motion to approve the claims. Mark, can I make a motion to approve the claims?
Yeah,
Second by Martha. Discussion on approval of claims.
I have additions to add to the claims.
Okay.
These were late, admitted, as well as some that we had tabled for not having the information. And I believe the committee members got an email that addressed a couple of these, or probably all of them. We had an expense for witness travel. We did not know that when at the time. That's through the state's attorney's office. I believe it's, I don't have the dollar amount on it. I think it was 600 and...
I want to say maybe with mileage, seven something, yeah.
Remember, Don, we was both looking at it? Okay. I would like for that to be included. And then late pieces that were given, there's the rescue squad for $37.98. Sheriff, let's see, rescue squad again for $44.77, and that goes to the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. The first one went to Ace Hardware. The second goes to Shelby County Sheriff's Office for fuel. Okay, Heather Wade turned in her travel mileage. So this is in probation, 20502. Also from Heather's office, Angie Durbin, graduate fluctuation expense 3718, that has to do with the program,
Drug court.
drug court. And, okay, training and home contacts, here's another, through Heather Wade's office, 5437, it's mileage. And that's it.
Okay, so you make an amendment to the main motion to approve the claims to add travel expenses from the state's attorney
From the state's attorney.
for witness travel, rescue squad for the mentioned bills, and probation for the mentioned bills.
Yes.
Okay, a second on the motion. Martha seconds. Take a roll call. Yeah, we'll take a roll call.
This is on the amendment.
Yes, this is on the amendment.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Banks.
Yeah.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carl Cole. Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Barnhiver.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Nat Martin.
Yes.
Chad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shetler. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so the motion approving claims was made by Mark, seconded by Martha. So now we will we'll vote on the motion as amended. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Banks.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carl Cole. Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Mark Barnhiver.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Nat Martin.
Yes.
Chad Mayhall.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shetler. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Make motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second. Jeremy, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.